Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of Beloved. I am your host, Cherise Rochelle. If you're new here, this is a space for healing, reflection, and grace for anyone walking through the quiet work of becoming whole again. Today's episode is one I want to approach gently and prayerfully because it's not just a topic, it's a wound that many of us carry. Should you talk to your father or your father figure about how they've hurt you? And if so, when and how? This episode isn't about blame or confrontation. It's about discernment, wisdom, and emotional safety. It's about asking, what does healing require from me and what does it not? Many of us who carry a father wound also carry an unspoken longing to be seen, to be acknowledged, to be understood by the very person who made us feel invisible or unworthy. It's natural to wonder, should I say something? Would it bring closure? Would it help my healing? But here's the truth. Not every wound needs to be spoken to the person who caused it in order to be healed. And not every confrontation leads to closure. But how do you know when it's time to speak, or if you should? Let's pause and ask some hard questions. Before you reach out to your father or father figure, ask yourself, am I hoping for healing or validation? Am I prepared for silence, defensiveness, or denial? Am I emotionally safe enough to receive any outcome? Am I speaking from a scar or still bleeding from the wound? If you're still raw, angry, or deeply reactive, it might be a sign that you need to continue processing and healing with God and therapists before having that conversation. You do not owe anyone a premature conversation that reopens your trauma. So let's talk about safety and discernment. This is especially important. If the relationship was abusive, manipulative, or emotionally harmful, you do not have to open that door again just because you're quote-unquote supposed to. Forgiveness is not the same as reconciliation. Let me say that again. Forgiveness is not the same as reconciliation. And boundaries are not bitterness, they are wisdom. You can honor your healing without re-entering an unsafe space. And God never asks you to put yourself in harm's way to prove that you've forgiven. So what does the Bible have to say about this? Matthew chapter 18 verse 15 talks about going to someone who has sinned against you. But even in that, Jesus calls for wisdom, not reckless confrontation. And Romans chapter 12 verse 18 says, if it is possible, as far as it depends on you, live at peace with everyone. That, if it is possible, matters. Sometimes peace comes through a conversation, and sometimes peace comes through releasing the need for one. So if you do choose to speak, if you do feel led to talk to your father or your father figure, here are a few things to keep in mind. Pray first. Ask God for the right time, tone, and words. Journal or script it. Write down what you want to say. Stick to your experience and not accusations. Keep your expectations realistic. They may not respond how you hope, and healing is not dependent on their response. Get support. Talk it through with a therapist or a trusted friend before and after. And set boundaries. Know what's off limits for you emotionally, spiritually, and relationally. One thing that was recommended to me a long time ago was to write a letter. Because sometimes you might not be able to face that person, and also it might help to have all of your thoughts clearly laid out, before you try to have a conversation. If this conversation, though, never happens, here's the grace in all of it. You can be fully healed without an apology. You can speak your truth in prayer and feel the freedom of release. Your heavenly Father hears what your earthly father could not. He sees what went unsaid, and he collects your tears and responds with healing. God doesn't need the other person to cooperate in order to complete his work in you. And one final thing on the point of writing a letter, if you are someone who feels that you need to share or speak to this father or father figure that has brought you pain or suffering in the past, but this is not something safe to do, a letter is probably a very safe way to do that, where you can deliver it or have it delivered without actually having to come face to face with this person. Today's affirmation is, my healing is not dependent on another person's apology. I can honor my truth, walk in wisdom, and trust God with the outcome. And we're going to close on Romans 12:18, which is, if it is possible, as far as it depends on you, live at peace with everyone. So, if something in this episode touched a nerve, if it stirred something in your heart, take that to God, sit with him, ask him what your next steps should be. And in the show notes, I've linked to onlinetherapy.com, where you can get therapy from anywhere, because while this podcast can support your healing, it's not a substitute for professional care. And just to note that is an affiliate link, which means that if you use it, I may earn a small commission at no extra cost to you. If you need to talk, you can always reach out to me, or if you have any questions, at belovedofsharice@gmail.com. And if this episode resonated with you, please feel free to share it with someone who may be walking through something similar. You're not alone, and your story matters. Your healing is possible, even if it looks different than you imagined. Until next time, stay rooted in truth, wrapped in grace, and never forget, you are beloved.